Let's say you recently launched a AP automation solution. Your finance team is happy. Invoices are getting processed faster, but there's a problem. You're still seeing surprise expenses. You're still seeing invoices that are coming without a purchase order. You still see people not following or creating a purchase order in the system. If you're dealing with adoption challenges, this video is for you, because in this video, I'm going to tell you 3 things you must avoid to ensure a company-wide adoption of your AP automation solution. And stick till the end, where I'll show a counterintuitive way to drive adoption of AP system. If you're joining me for the first time, welcome. My name is Sachin Sharma. I am the founder of Procure Desk, where we help growing companies automate their purchasing and AP processes. So let's jump right in. Avoid mistake number 1, which is starting with finance. So here's what typically happens, right? You have an AP automation system and finance is obviously leading that. So they will think about their requirements first. Okay, what do we need for compliance? Okay, they should create a purchase order. Check. We need multiple approvals to ensure that the invoice is approved on time. Check, right? So you're thinking about your requirements, like what do you need for compliance? And I would encourage you to think about the needs of other departments within the organization, right? Who are the people who are initiating the purchase for which you're processing the invoice? So let's take example of a construction company is the project managers. Now, if project managers find it easier to just call the vendor and get the product, so no matter what you do, they're not going to adopt, right? So you have to start thinking about their requirements first and how can you make their life easy? Maybe it is a mobile app that helps them create the request from everywhere. So it's rather than calling the vendor, they can just press a few buttons and you're done. Maybe that's easier. Or having a link to their favorite vendors from where they can easily pick out what they want to buy. So when you start thinking about purchasing or the requirements of your other users, you easily think about how to make sure that they will adopt, right? How do we make it easier for them? So that's number 1. Number 2 is treating purchase orders and invoices rollout as separate thing. Like you have a process for rolling out AP and you don't do PO automation, for example. You might delay that, like finance start using the system first, they're processing invoices, but you haven't rolled out the purchase order process. My recommendation is, based on working with close to 500 companies now, is you should roll this out together, like a purchase order, invoicing, all in one time. Here's the reason for that. Now, if you're rolling out invoices, you're just telling them what they need. Here's a new system for approving the invoices. However, if you walk them through the whole process, they will be able to connect the dots and say, all right, I'm creating a purchase order so that when the invoice comes in, it is going to automatically match with the receipt. And I don't have to approve the invoice again if everything matches out. So they see the benefit upfront of creating a purchase order, and that makes the whole process easier for everybody else to follow, right? So start with, making sure that you're doing the rollout between PO and invoices together. Number 3 is assuming that compliance will drive usage. Most finance teams will just basically mandate the use of the purchasing system, but people find workarounds. Emergency purchase, or creating multiple requests for, same purchase so that you come under the approval policy. These are the things we see very commonly when you roll out a new system. So how do you overcome that? A easy way to think about this is, how do we make the process easier? How do we make compliance easier than trying to break the rules? So if you think that your end users would need an emergency purchase process, then design it in your implementation, right? So, okay, rather than having 3 set of approvals for every purchase, maybe they can check a box and say this is emergency purchase, and that will skip a lot of those approvals, go to one person who can approve it, right? And things like that. Or maybe they can order without approval, but then later you can go back and check how many emergency purchases are happening and you can control that way, right? So those are the 3 different things you can kind of focus on. Now, as the bonus tip is concerned, and that's the most counterintuitive approach I've ever seen, is ask for visibility and not compliance. So what I mean by that, like instead of saying you need to use the system so that we can track who's buying from where they're buying and things like that, you can ask them and say, hey, listen, I need to know all the purchases before they are made and who approved them. I don't care how you do it. Now, once you kind of mandate that ask, they will find it easier to do it in the system versus doing it manually. So just asking for visibility will automatically improve the compliance to the AP automation or the procurement system and so on. So just to recap, if you're dealing with a company-wide adoption challenge for your AP automation, here are the 3 things you should look for. Like, start with the purchasing process first. Make sure the PO and invoice rollout is happening together, and don't assume that compliance is going to drive usage. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video.